Hi everybody, my name is Jord Hailwood. My pronouns are he/him, and I was involved in Oxfordshire Youth's Are You Listening podcast for season 3. I feel like I've learned quite a lot being part of the process. I volunteered for a few months as a podcast contributor, primarily someone who took the role as a podcast host, as I previously and currently have a fair amount of experience with it, as I have my own podcast. It's called The Winning Side, so I guess it just kind of made sense. I mean, during my time, I got to host episodes about like a range of areas I was really passionate about, things that really sparked my interest, and I really have to give Oxfordshire Youth creds because they're very good at allowing you to gravitate towards what intrigues you the most and what's best suited for you. So I was able to lead conversations about Black History Month, which is really important to me, the hard-hitting importance of Black Lives Matter movement. I also got to discuss queerness, which is really important to me. And this was a special particular mention for that was critically acclaimed TV series Heartstopper, mask queer male representation like Nick Nelson in Heartstopper. As I was a slightly older member of the group, I was able to guide conversations as well about transitions and leaving education, which is really pivotal. I feel like I was left with quite a lot of space to discuss and interpret different things or experiences the way in which that I wanted to. I feel like with a lot of things you have to be persuaded or kind of like nudged to talk or discuss in particular ways or angles, and that really wasn't the case, which is really rare for the work that I do. This was a really fun experience for me, which didn't feel like extra work. It was enjoyable. I genuinely really looked forward to getting together to explore more of my identity whilst being surrounded by other like-minded individuals, which is really important in this day and age when things can be very difficult when marginalised people are being challenged and tackled. Throughout this process, I've also had the real pleasure of being able to widen my network, which is really important for the work that I do. Networking can be very difficult if you don't have the right people to get into the right rooms and the right spaces in the first place. So I think I would definitely acknowledge the fact that having programs like the podcast is probably an easier way to adapt into spaces and then organically meet people. One key person who I'd love to mention who I got to work with alongside this journey is Nikki. She runs an amazing organisation called Bounce Black. She's really cool. She has done so much amazing work for Black mental health in this country, to the point that's actually incredible that I was able to call her a connection. She's a very kind person. She's been very generous. We've had the fortune of staying in touch after working together in Oxfordshire Youth, and yeah, I really appreciate her. Are You Listening is such a good gateway into social skills, presentation skills, and it's really helped build my confidence. I'm really inspired by how Becky and Darius have done it. Together they reach out to really cool people to be featured on the podcast, and that kind of builds my confidence and makes me want to do more. So thank you for that, guys. I really appreciate you. I also really appreciate the two of them, Becky and Darius, for always checking in after to like make sure that I'm okay. How am I doing? How did it go? I really appreciate the space to check in. I'm really reassured and pleased that Becky and Darius are very good at catering to people's needs. It doesn't go unnoticed. I feel like the podcast provided a space for people. For all people. In my opinion, I don't think Oxfordshire has a huge amount of creative resources for young people like what the podcast provided. The safe, non-judgmental place provides a great outlet for young people to experience creative spaces. Often people can be very critical in creative spaces, and Are You Listening is very, very open-minded and very well thought out and very considerate. I'm very grateful to be in a position where I have my own podcast, The Winning Side, has had some amazing guests over the last however many years. Some particular mentions are Gunnar Phillip, who's my favourite YouTuber ever, Senor Fenty, Taran Puri, a good friend of mine, an incredibly talented artist, Simworld, and yeah, many more. I've also been able to have other opportunities to host. I did another podcast with EDI charity Lives of Colour, which focused on the experience of Black men in the UK to explore the lived experiences of Black men and boys. And one of my biggest accomplishments after leaving Are You Listening is probably that I've been able to do interviews at the Cheltenham Literature Festival. That was really cool. I was actually able to interview a couple of weeks ago Jordan Stevens from Rizzle Kicks about his new book. I'm really grateful to have those opportunities. I would like to say a huge thank you to the podcast crew, to Becky and Darius, for all the support. I feel like it's quite essential to maintain the space because this could be the only safe space for someone for all we know, you know. I hope that more young people get to experience what I have, as it's helped me a lot with my career progression, and I'm really excited and optimistic to see what the future holds for Oxfordshire Youth and the creative spaces which they continue to make and will continue to make.